Breaking, a former police chief from Oakland, Nebraska, pled guilty to federal charges for misuse of public funds. A state audit report last year found Terry Poland bought nearly $15,000 worth of Shields gift cards.
Poland used the cards to purchase items like an ice fishing house, clothing, and a basketball backboard. The 33-year-old also agreed to surrender his law enforcement certification before he's sentenced in July.